An increasing amount of information is being pooled by many different agencies in order to know as much information as possible. Companies collect data every time you buy or Google something. Data that our government collects is pooled together to use in order to watch for potential threats and keep citizens under surveillance. Our government agencies possess more information on us than we could even imagine by gathering information and data from our cell phones, computers, purchases, and social media. Many people believe that this is an invasion of privacy that infringes upon our innate right to confidentiality and personal space. On the other hand, some people believe in the statement, "nothing to hide, nothing to fear." Some people believe that regardless, the government's power and technology cannot be controlled. With the introduction and progression of technology in this day and age, it seems almost impossible to keep information to yourself. Social media's growth over the past years has allowed an increase in the amount of public data on you that can be found by nearly anyone. Since technology has advanced in the way it has, privacy has changed greatly, and many feel that it has been violated by our government officials and companies gathering data from online sources and filing your information to know as much possible about you. There is such a large amount of information in databases that it is nearly impossible to know everything about yourself that is known by our government or companies. This data can barely even be controlled by you, which may seem unfair. Seemingly personal information has been gathered, which may seem illegal, but since data travels outside of your personal cell phone, computer, etc., it is legal. Many people feel uncomfortable with the idea of data being taken from their personal devices and think that this is not okay, but others wonder why people care so much if they aren't doing anything bad. One recent example of this issue is the Cambridge Analytica situation. Cambridge Analytica is a data mining company that connected with an outside researcher in order to gather data from Facebook users. A survey app was created that paid users to install it and take the survey. The survey app was called This Is Your Digital Life, and it allowed users to take a personality test. 270,000 Facebook users completed the survey. Taking the survey allowed for the download of the user's Facebook likes, profile information, and their friends' data. Cambridge Analytica gathered information of 50 million Facebook users. This data was used in order to create psychological profiles that determined what type of political messaging the Facebook users were vulnerable to. Facebook demanded that the company delete the data, and in 2015, when this all occurred, Cambridge Analytica claimed that they deleted it. However, recently it was found to still be in the company's possession. This does violate Facebook policies, but technically it wasn't illegal. Many different stances may be taken on the topic of privacy. Daniel Solove and David Brin have different viewpoints on privacy. Daniel Solove is an advocate for privacy. He takes on the nothing to hide argument and explains why privacy is important regardless of whether or not you have anything to hide. This argument is perhaps the largest argument against privacy, saying that the government's data collection should only be of worry to those who are doing wrong, in which case their information should be known anyways. However, Solove points out that almost everyone has something to hide, considering everyone can probably think of at least one thing that they don't want people to know about them. Solove first takes a look at how people that believe in the nothing to hide argument look at privacy. He says that these people look at privacy and try to pinpoint specific things that fall under what should be private. However, privacy is too complex and it involves too many factors to make it such a simple idea. He says that many privacy issues don't get solved by our courts and government leaders, considering that many issues don't fall into a one-size-fits-all conception of privacy. Solove compares data collection issues to 1984 by George Orwell, a book based on a society completely monitored by the government. He also makes a comparison to The Trial by Franz Kafka, which is the story of a man who is arrested without being told why, and the court has a collection of data on him that they are basing the arrest off of. These stories both revolve around issues of surveillance. In the trial, information processing ends up being the issue rather than the information collection itself. Solove then discusses how the nothing to hide argument focuses on privacy as hiding only the bad things, when in reality, privacy is so much more. He points out that part of the issue with invading privacy is how the information is being used. He also says that privacy in the nothing to hide argument is being viewed as secrecy, when in reality this is not the case. He discusses the issue of aggregation, which is when information is put together to come to a conclusion. For example, if a woman bought a wig and has a book about cancer, people with this information may come to the conclusion that she has cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. This is a fact that you may not mind people knowing, but you would definitely want to decide for yourself whether or not they knew. He also discusses the issue of exclusion, which is when people don't know how the data on them is being used, and they can't access, control, or correct errors in the data on them. Many governmental databases cannot be accessed, such as national security databases, so people can't know what information on them could possibly be held against them. He talks about secondary use, which is when data is shared that was obtained for a different purpose, without the person's consent. Since there is little access to the government's data, it is unknown how they may use information on us against us or how they may share this data. Distortion is the issue of information painting a distorted picture that doesn't honestly tell who the person is. Solov thinks that privacy isn't violated by one particular act. He thinks that privacy is lost over time by many different acts until it dissolves completely. He thinks that people really need to think about what the government could do with our information, regardless of whether it's good or bad, and how this can harm us in the long run. On the other hand, David Brin takes a perspective that is neither for nor against keeping privacy. His main point is that extreme government surveillance is coming, and we must choose between only the government watching us or everyone watching everyone. He looks into the future and describes 2 cities in the face of advanced technology. These cities have cameras surveying almost every move everyone makes in the open view. City 1 has cameras that report straight to the police that have security officers using image processors that scan for any problematic situations or acts, yet citizens are aware that they are being watched. City 2 has cameras just like City 1, but the devices don't report to security. Citizens have watches and TVs that play the images that the cameras record at any time. He says that these cameras are on their way, and Britain already has remote-controlled video cameras in many cities that watches dangerous spots and reports to police headquarters. This majorly decreased crimes in the areas possessing the cameras and the savings in patrol costs paid for the cameras and surveillance. At this point, there are over 250,000 cameras in the United Kingdom. All of the locations with cameras have lower crime rates, and the cities really like the cameras and surveillance. Brin thinks that there are obvious short-term benefits to surveillance technology. However, he thinks in the long run, a decision will have to be made between City 1 and City 2 and who will have the control over the cameras. Cameras are also not the only possibility here. Already in California, police departments have put sound pickups in neighborhoods that send recordings live to police headquarters. He also discusses a sensor system that is a drone with a TV camera and 2-way video links that provide airborne surveillance for soldiers in the field. The drone is low cost and simple. Brin thinks that civilian models are not too far off and that laws will not stop this from occurring. While citizens will definitely protest such surveillance, Brin thinks that we can't hold off on this forever, let alone even a short amount of time. He thinks this is coming in the very near future. Also, he thinks that cameras will only be the beginning, with many more innovative forms of surveillance following. Brin thinks that following this will be computers that can hold financial records, educational records, legal documents, medical analysis, and much more that can be accessed by strangers without you even knowing. Brin calls for a transparent society. He says that common folk should have the right to watch the watchers. He thinks that cameras such as these could lead to issues such as stalking, peeping toms, and much more. Brin goes into his discussion on privacy and accountability, saying that people want privacy for themselves but want others to take accountability. There has been a great call for people to demand their privacy and protect their right to it. After all, everyone likes their privacy. However, he thinks that society has to recognize that surveillance is coming and it will infringe upon our rights to privacy. But Brin discusses the importance of accountability as well. He thinks that in order to have liberty, we must have accountability. Once liberty is obtained and protected, Brin thinks that we will be able to protect our privacy and even expand it. Overall, while most people are for privacy like Solov, some thinks that it isn't a big deal. But when it comes down to it, people like Brin think that our privacy will be infringed upon either way, but we must decide whether we can infringe upon the privacy of those when they infringe upon ours.